Well, here we go, episode 9, and for the main feature on this show, we're out at one of the most iconic waters in the country, the famous Wraysbury. We've been invited down here to fish 2 nights on an island on the South Lake, which we're super excited about, and also one of the bailiffs has been putting in serious amounts of effort over the winter, fishing days only, and he's had some mega results. So we thought it'd be rude not to catch up with him whilst we're down here, pick his brains, find out what he's caught and what he's been having them on. As well as that, we've got all the usual goodness lined up for you. So yeah, as usual, sit back and enjoy it. Episode 9. Well, Al, first of all, thanks for inviting us down here.
No problem at all.
Me and Mike have been absolutely buzzing about the prospect of fishing on the South Lake for a couple of nights ever since you mentioned it.
Brilliant, good. Yeah, look forward to it, mate. You should do well over there. He's been doing fish the last couple of weeks. Now, hopefully you'll have a good trip.
Fingers crossed. But in the meantime, I thought we'd come and have a little chat with you because you've had a pretty exceptional winter, I believe.
Yeah, it's been, I suppose it started by accident, to be honest, Joe. It was a winter campaign that was probably never going to happen. It only started, I was due in France first 2 weeks in November. I was originally due heading back to the Midi-Pyrenees to a lake I went to in September. And then France went into like a departmental lockdown about 8 days before we were due to go. So we lost the Midi-Pyrenees, that region was out. We had a plan B and plan C over in the east of the country. 4 days before we were due to go, we lost that as well. So we moved all the bookings. So we moved them out, and that's not going to happen either. It's the end of May at the moment, that's just not going to happen. And actually thought I'd come down here for a couple of, I had like 2 weeks booked off work. So it's the first 2 weeks in November, so I thought I'd pop down, just did a couple of 3-night sessions each week. And that's really where it started. And from that, it just carried on and carried on and carried on right the way through to where we are today.
You caught the Wraysbury bug?
Yeah, I did. You know,
North Lake bug.
I've been a bailiff on here for 7 years, probably something like that. Pretty much since Arcade took it over. Actually 8 years since Arcade took it over now. But myself and the other bailiffs, we don't fish here a lot. You know, we probably average 12 to 15 nights a year, something like that, each one of us. You know, we do rotated weekends all the way through the spring, summer, autumn and stuff like that, just in case any of the members get fish weeded up or anything else. So none of us really spend a whole lot of time here. And it was nice, as normally when you're doing your bailiffing weekends, you can be sat there 7 o'clock in the morning, you've got fish all over you, you're getting liners, they're tearing the bottom up, and your phone rings and somebody's got a fish weeded up down the other end of the lake. And you're reeling your rods in, and you've got to go and sort it out. That's what you've got to do. And so one of the only downsides of actually bailiffing a venue like this, to be fair. So it was really nice just to come down for a couple of weeks and actually do what I call just a little bit of your own fishing, if you like. And I got first trip, to be honest, I got lucky. I was fishing next door. I think I blanked the first night. One of the lads, Chris, was in here. I think he'd lost 2 fish the day before he actually came out of here. So they must have seen about 15-20 shows out there that morning. And Chris, when he was fishing, there's quite a few well-known spots out here at about 16-17 wraps that most of the boys fish. I think he'd picked both his fish up off of that. And the bit of water out there between this swimming style and the runway next door is always considered a little bit of no man's land. So I spent probably 3 hours in here, I think leading around actually trying to get a drop out there, and after what must have been 100 casts, it literally just went crack, and I mean crack, like 100 yards out, proper feel it through to your feet. Like, right, okay, we'll get that in there. Started leading around it, it was probably 5 or 6 foot across. I reckon, something like that, and you can see days like today where you've got a bit of a crosswind. It's difficult trying to drop a lead at that sort of range into that sort of hole, but managed to get a rig out there in the end, probably about 15 casts later, something else like that. And then next morning, I think the first take I had off of it was actually my first hook pull of the year, which I think just had a hook pull out here when he was trying to go down the back of the island when he kited right. And skinned that back in, got another rig on it, whacked it back out there. 3 hours later, £39 common on you.
Wow.
Yeah, lovely fish. He'd done £40 about 6-7 weeks previously when Mike Bromfield caught it. I think it was £40.6. Is
that one of the new ones?
We think it is. We don't really know where that one came from. I've got photos. I tracked back through a load of photos when Mike caught it, as he messaged me about it when he had it, asking if I knew which fish it was. I knew one of the guys that had it a couple of years ago, probably 2 years ago at 32. I got a photo of it. I found one of the old members, Joel Fennell, had it, I think, at about 26 in 2017 probably. something like that. And I think it was one of the ones when RK first took them over and the lakes got split. If any of us were fishing the south and you caught a good one, you'd move it over. And if you were catching a lot of small fish in here, like 12, 14 pounders that slipped in when they did the stockings, we'd move those back over the other way. Just to try and get the bigger fish in this side and actually get them coming and growing through. So we slimmed out a lot of the little ones over the first couple of years. And I think it was one of the ones that we brought over from the south. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it might have been Joe Green who actually caught it. Probably 2015, 2016.
That's packing
low
on the
to
weight.
mid-20. It is stacking it on. It is stacking it on. We've actually got two commons. You talk about the new ones that came in. One of them came out, one of the lads, Matty Grover, had one last weekend. I think it was 38.8. Was one of the new ones. And one of the lads, Justin Ford, had an absolute minter at the Rocky back in November that I think was about 35.8, 35.6, something like that, along those. And they're beautiful, Joe. They're like absolute new pennies, mate. It's like they're cast in bronze, just scale perfect, immaculate fish, and they are absolutely stacking it on.
So that fish then, you caught out on the first night of fishing that spot, and without even baiting it. You know,
it was without even baiting it at the time.
That's always a great sign, isn't it?
It is, and it's like I said, it's that bit of the lake we've all looked at for years and all tried dropping rigs in it. There was never anything out there, and I think it was just the sheer bloody-minded persistence of spending 3 hours chucking a lead in there repeatedly. Finally got that little drop, and I think it was over the next 2 nights I was in there. I had another 2 bites off of it, another 2 fish. So it was clearly like, okay, that's a good one. And talking about the baiting, even on that first trip, I went in heavy. Like 10 days before, I picked up 105 kilos of bait to take to France, all like rock hard 22 millers. And there's no way at all I could do anything with them unless I was going back out to France or something or whatever else. So I think literally, even at that point, I think I was probably doing 5 or 10k a night between a couple of rods, even in November, and they were straight on it and they were having it. So, and that was really the start of it, Joe. I was lucky the next couple of weeks. I was back down again the following week. I managed to get back in here again for 2 nights. The first night I was down, I spent a night down in 26. I think I had a length cut off that morning on a take, and I managed to get back in here again the following day. I think I'd had 4, the previous week. Like I say, dropped back in another 2 nights, had another 3 fish out. But started for the first time. I think I picked one up out to the right as well. All the others at that point in time had just come off of that one spot, and I think it might have been it wasn't the right. It was the middle rod. I eventually picked one up off as well. I think the following week, and after that it was right clear. They're here. It's a swim. It doesn't have a lot of winter form. I don't think it's done a good winter for somebody. Since one of the old bailiff Sam Marks had a winter in here probably in about 2015 when he had a few out. So it was a swim without a lot of winter form. It's a really popular swim throughout a lot of the year, and it does do a lot of fish. But I think with a lot of the restrictions that we had, I was lucky, to be honest, in the fact I could get back in here. So going back into November, the start of December, I managed to get back in here a couple of times. Kept the bait going in every time I was in here. And managed to, I'm trying to think, going through the start of December, managed to winkle out again off of that left-hand spot, managed to winkle out a really pristine 31, 32 pound mirror. Had a beautiful we've got a couple of commons with like the patches and the smudges on. We've got one big one that now does about 44 pound. I managed to catch the smaller of the 2 of those at 32. That's just beautiful, like all reds and bronzes and everything else. And that was like the middle of December. I had Josh Dole from Heritage actually do the photos for me, and he did some absolute belters. Came out brilliantly, and they were still having it, and they were still here. I think by that point in time, I'd gone through my 105 kilos. Really? But I was still putting a lot of bait in at the time, and I was still baiting it quite heavily. And then it was probably about the second week of December, it was noticeable they slowed right the way down when we had a couple of cold snaps come in. So I kind of knocked the ultra heavy baiting on the head. But I think we did, I was actually, and this is going to sound quite sad, but I live in a tier 4 area. And 4 days before Christmas, all my Christmas plans got blown out the window. I was supposed to be going back to like the family home, see my mum, my sister and a little one. So that all blew up 4 days before Christmas, couldn't go, so I was stuck with literally nothing to do over Christmas. So my choice was either sit at home, spend my time at home with the cat, or come down here for a couple of days. So I came down Christmas Eve, obviously empty, only one sado on the lake, and that was me. Got to drop in here again, rods pinged out on the same spots again. 7 o'clock Christmas morning, middle rod ramps off, £30 6 mirror. And it was cold. It was like, I left it like the front of the swim. The swim had actually flooded by this point in time. The water was almost up to the first step. And just kind of left it in the net at the front on the sleepers. And it literally was that cold, the net just froze to the sleepers. And one of the other bailiffs, Jobby, was down for a walk that morning. I knew he'd be down about 7:30, so just left it in the net, and he came to do some photos for me, which was nice. Wished me happy Christmas, went on his way. Just put the same rod back out. I didn't put any more bait out at all, just like I was fishing 3 bait stringers at the time. Put another 3 bait stringer out. 2 hours later, same rod goes again. I think it was a 23 pound mirror, I think it was. So, okay, wind it back in, another rig goes on, another 3 bait stringer on there, goes out again, donk, bang, on the same spot, lovely. And bearing in mind that spot had done me 1 fish, I think, at that point in time, maybe 2 since the start of November, so it hadn't done a lot at all. And then we've had, like the site manager for RK, Zibby, had just been come for like his Christmas walk with the family and stuff like that, and he'd just gone past and all the kids are there, oh, have you caught anything, you caught anything? It's like, yeah, you know, you've caught one, but, you know, you're too late. And they were just walking past Swim Blake's opposite, ran the back of there, and the same rod 25 minutes later went again. It's ridiculous. It was a 39.6 mirror.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was a Christmas present and a half, wasn't
Oh, mate, yeah. You couldn't, if, you know, it's a funny one because you're like, a lot of people go, oh, brace of 30s, Christmas morning, great. I would trade in every single fish I caught this winter, all of them, to have spent Christmas with my family. You know, it's a weird consolation and it's a funny feeling, and it's, yeah, brace of 30s Christmas. I'll probably never go fishing on Christmas Day again for the rest of my life. I genuinely hope I don't, to be honest. But, you know, just making hay while the sun shines while you're actually down there. So I kind of rang Zibby and he came back round with the kids and everything else, and they all got in the photos and stuff. So it was a nice morning. Nice morning. And then kind of a cooked Christmas dinner in the Ridge Monkey. Full Christmas dinner, all the trimmings. Managed to do that, which I was quite pleased with. And then, yeah, nothing else Christmas Day. And then Boxing Day morning, about 7:30, the right-hand rod. First bite I'd had on that rod. Actually, I'd spent a long time looking out there for spots. They spend a lot of time kind of showing in spots quite far right on here, and where you've got the corner of the island, it's just suicide fishing down there. So I was trying to find spots in that to the left of where they were showing a lot. Eventually found one that ramped off Boxing Day, which was nice. I think that was a scraper 20, something like that. And then went home quite happy later on Boxing Day. So that was my little Christmas trip.
That's a mega bit of winter fishing, mate. I
think we then got down. I think the next trip was, I think it was New Year's Day. It was when Ian Russell had a massive hit down in Peg 27, down in the car park. I think he must have had 11 or 12 bites out. It was like every time I looked up, he was just dropping a spom out. And for me, it was, with the amount of time I'd invested in the swim, the amount of time I spent here, I just wanted to get back in here. It was literally at the point where it was like, I don't want to fish anywhere else. And I was in touch with a couple of lads on the lake, and there was a lad, John Brooker, who's here today, actually fishing next door. Gave me a heads up, there was somebody in here, they were packing up, I think it was on New Year's Day. Nobody else was coming down, so I was like, great, I'll go and drop in again. So 1st of January, New Year's Day, we dropped in again. Ian was absolutely smashing them up down the bottom end. Rods out on exactly the same spots. January the 2nd, left-hand rod again, off it ramps. I think it was, again, nice old-looking 25-pound common. It was like, so, Happy New Year along with Happy Christmas. And then I think it was about 2 days after that we went into lockdown. The lockdown was interesting, where we obviously put days-only fishing on the lake, which made things difficult for a lot of people, and the travel restrictions meant it was really, really, really quiet. Now, I'm lucky in the fact that I'm 6 miles from the lake, so I'm local, so I can come here. And also, to be completely transparent with everybody, because a lot of the boys down here know I've been doing it. I'm a bailiff on the lake. I'm down here a couple of evenings a week walking around, and I've been lucky in the fact I've been able to keep bait going in the swim all winter doing that. So I'm working all day, and when I come down for my evening walks, I've just been topping the spots up. Nothing massive, not going crazy. They weren't going mad like they actually are again now they've woken up. But just lucky where I'm in that privileged position where I could do that. And that then kept the bites coming when it basically went days only. So I was just baiting up and topping the spots up a couple of times in the week, not with a lot. And then literally just coming down Saturdays, queuing at the gate with all the other guys, along with everybody else, and then hoping I could get back in here every single week. I think there was 1 week I failed to get in.
But you weren't really doing something that anyone else could. It's just that your working hours dictated that, you know, you could only do it after dark. Anyone could have come down in the daylight and baited up, couldn't they?
Yeah, they could. Yeah, they could. But it is, to be completely honest about it, Joe, it's the privilege of being a bailiff, and I was lucky I could do it. And that massively helped me all the way through January and February. Massively helped. And also, I've got to say, a big shout out to the other guys on here. A lot of the guys on here know I've put a lot of work into this swim for the last couple of months, and you know they know I've been fishing it hard. And like where John did, like New Year's Day, he'll give me a shout, let me know somebody's going. The guys down here have been absolutely, to a man, they've been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. There's only one time, like I said, living locally, I can do it where I was beaten to the gate. I mean, I was literally getting up. It was almost, and this is going to sound so sad, but I know you'll get it. It's like the night before, I almost can't sleep. It's like it was all about getting in here. I mean, I was clipping the rods up on a Thursday night, going, and they're in numbered rod sleeves, 1, 2, 3, left to right. That's how bad it was, just so I could get in here. And all I wanted to do, where the spots had been topped up, was just fish singles. So for January and February, that's all I was doing. I didn't bring a scrap of bait with me if I was coming down for a day. And just had them numbered sleeves, clipped up, and it literally be bang, 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 1, 2, 3. And the bites kept coming. I had a lovely clean, I think it was about the 2nd or 3rd week of January, lovely clean 30-pound salmon mirror. I think the week after that, I managed to nick a couple of low 20s out. I think it was the week after that, I managed to nick another one. And then there was one time I wasn't first at the gate. One of the guys came in here, like he's perfectly entitled to do, same as anybody can, mate. If you went first, you don't get your choice. So there's only the 1 week, only the 1 week between another couple of work parties that we had going on. I couldn't actually get in here. And then it was four weeks ago, I think it was 4 weeks ago, this Saturday just gone. It was the big full moon at the end of February. And I mean, when I say I couldn't sleep the night before, I reckon I had 2 hours sleep. And it was a full moon on that day. I think it was about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And I couldn't sleep. I woke up at, I set my alarm for about 4:30, something like that. As the gate was opening at 6, and I just wanted to be there at least an hour beforehand. The cat woke me up 3:15. Something like that. So it was like, do you know what? I'm up. Had a cup of tea.
Like, come on, you've got to get your rods out.
Do you know what, Joe? Do you know what? It was one of those days where if she hadn't have done that, I might not have been first there, and somebody else might have actually have come in here. And it was another one of those. It's like your heart's pounding when you're driving down the road. Even like, I mean, it was 10 to 4 in the morning on a Saturday, and I'm like, am I there? Am I first? Am I first? Am I first? Am I first? And you get round the corner and there's no one there, and you're just like, oh, and you can relax for the first time since you finished work the previous day. And then, like I said, we came in, got in, rods went out. It was one of those perfect little mornings, or it started that way, where the rods just went out like a dream. I think normally there was, I think I've had 2 blank trips over the winter, and both of them have been when it's taken probably more than 2 casts of rod to stick them out, where I think just the sound of the leads bombing in has just spooked them. Anything more than that, I think, and I haven't got a bite either of those days, and I think 4 casts and I had all 3 rods out, and they went out perfectly. So I was sat here, I was chatting to one of the other bailiffs, like Leck, who was down for a work party. The guys were doing some work on the south, and he'd popped down for a cup of tea before the work party had started. It was about 7:30, and we're having a chat, and I remember saying to him on that morning, I was like, mate, today is perfect. It was about 15 degrees, it was a big February full moon, and I was like, it's got to do an absolute chunk, it's got to. So the first thing that happened, I think it was about 8:30, 20 to 9, the right-hand rod went. And it, a little bit like the one this morning, my debut on camera, losing a fish, live for the cameras, spectacular. It was a real plodder. I've looked at it out here, it's kited all the way around here, it's come across here, it's come back across, and it was a dead weight. And it kited round to my left, and again, much like this morning, which was trying to do me in the snags and the trees down here, he's started kiting behind the trees just down to the left, and I've just had to give it both handles and just walk sideways across the swim, and the up pulled, second up pull all year. It was a sickener. It's like every big fish is due in here at the moment. They're all due. It wouldn't surprise me if one came out while we're actually here. And it was like second up pull all year. It was like absolutely crucified, mate, gutted, but sort yourself out, don't you? Stick the kettle on, get another rig out, get the hook bait on, bang, goes out there again. I think it was then about 11:30, middle rod, and I mean absolutely flew, tore off, something like that, picked it up, bent into it, bump, gone, straight off. Like, so 1 all year, and I've had 2 in 4 hours, and you're like, what the bloody hell's going on? Like, it's so much for like your perfect day, all the rods going out perfect, you've knackered the swim and everything else. And you kind of, I'll be honest, mate, I was sat there like chewing my lip a little bit, and I was not happy. And then I think I was actually on the phone to good mate of mine, Paul McCarthy, at the time, and I was chatting away to Paul, and it was one of those where everyone down the lake had been talking about it for weeks. I've been talking to Ian actually that morning about like the big one's going to be out, how big is it going to be? You know, it did £50 in September. Is it going to be 54s, 55s, or whatever else? And I was literally on the phone to Paul having the conversation, and the right-hand rod just really slowly pulled up, the tip bent round, and I was literally just said, "Got to go, mate," through the phone. Got to it before it even come out the clip, and I mean it into it. It sounds corny, but it was a bag of sand, Joe. It was just an absolute dead weight. To the point I was like, because there is a lot of weed out there left of the spot still I was fishing, and was like, is it cool? Is it trying to give it a little bit? No, it's moving. And yeah, it just kited around a little bit a few times, but it was just dragging like a sack of dog food in, or something like that. And then I saw it for the first time just out here, about a rod length and a half out. And it turns side on, and we've got two big simmos in here with the old pop ribs. One's Mike's Pet, and the other one, quite unhealthily, is called Not Mike's Pet. And it's, believe it or not, out the two, Not Mike's Pet, I really want to catch that fish. And fingers crossed we will at some point in time. And I've looked at it, and it's just turned down there, only about 6 foot away from the trees again. And I've seen like the pop rib, and I've just gone, oh, that's a big fish. That's one of two. Got to be one of two. Luckily, went in the net first time, and I knew it was one of those. So whatever happens, I'm probably looking at a £45 plus fish. And you are like straining everything with a net, and you're like that, trying to juggle it in and get it in. And just as it went in the net, and his tail went in, I thought I saw a little bit of white on his bottom tail lobe. And I was like, oh, that might be the big one, that might be Mike's Pet. And like, got the net there, stuff like that, got everything sorted out, like heart's going still. And you kind of leaned in the net, just like leant over, and this great big bloody thing like that taking up like half the net. I mean, it is literally, it's like that wide. It's a massive fish. Just picked up the tail and just saw like the white lobes on it, and you're like, yeah, it's the big one. It's a big one.
What a buzz.
Oh mate, it's like I think it was like the last day or last 2 days of February as well, something like that. You know, it just doesn't. It shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I grew up like reading stories like Laney's first book when he had like Mary off of Bryant's Point in February and stuff like that.
Chucked out a single, didn't he?
Yeah, you know what? You know, knowing Dave, probably half drowned in a boat and stuff like that, out there and doing whatever he was doing at the time, bless him. But yeah, you know, I grew up reading stories like that, and then like 25 years later or whatever else, you're here and you're staring down at the end of February at a 50-pounder.
Wraysbury Carp. Yeah,
and going like, that's just ridiculous. So like, phoned a couple of lads. Like I said, the boys were over doing a work party on the St Ives, so they came round. What was really nice was Jim, was our head bailiff on here. Jim's, without going into too much detail, was his personal life. Got diagnosed with quite a serious illness back end of last year. Had a massive operation start of the year. Fingers crossed, pray to God he's making a full recovery and he's going great guns. And it was actually the first day he was up the lake since he had his op. And he'd literally just come up for a walk and come to see people. So Mike, bless him, brought him round in the buggy. And it's like the little moments like that that make a brilliant moment a magical moment, if you know what I mean. Yeah. It's like, do you know what, I've got a PB, first like UK 50-pounder and stuff like that, February, Wraysbury, whatever else, but those little moments to share it with your mates like that, Joe, to me it's like the icing on the cake.
Do you know what, I heard a quote recently and I thought it stuck with me: happiness is the only thing doubled when it's shared.
Do you know what, Joe, you're absolutely spot on, mate, absolutely spot on.
Yeah, one hell of a carp, mate. It's a serious unit, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is a massive fish. We've been watching it for years, wondering if it will do 50-pound. I think it was, biggest weight was a couple of years ago. I think it was either 49.12 or 49.14. And a few times the lads have seen it kind of spawning time, springtime, and you look at it and it's just like whoop down the bottom, and you think it's got it. And this year, for the first time in a couple of years, it didn't actually drop any weight after spawning. It was caught fairly early on, I think at about 46 and 47s fairly early on. It's a fairly friendly fish. You know, I think it's probably been out 6-7 times this year. So, you know, it might be a like current lake record if you want to call it that, but it probably won't be in about 5 or 6 weeks' time. It'll be on the munch and it'll come out again at an even bigger weight.
Well, you know what they say, effort equals reward, and you certainly put in the effort and got the rewards.
It did, Joe. It paid off. I think it's when you're saying things like you're popping down a couple of times a week and you're lucky in the fact, I'll say it again, you can do it just to trickle a bit of bait in. There were days when I was here in January where you've got your coat is covered in a sheet of ice from spray off the reel. The wind chill's like -6. You've got to dip your rod every 3 casts. As you've got leaders freeze into the rod, you've got ice for all your rings. And I've sat here one day when it was -6, blanking with like all the bushes touching the water's edge, just with like ice pendants all the way down them, like the rows of ice going in there. I've been stood there with leaky waders when the swim's flooded, mate, with chilblains on my feet, like just to trickle a bit of bait in, thinking you're absolutely mad to be there. But when that happens at the end of it, yeah, it's worth it. It really is. It's and I'll say it again. It's a beautiful phrase you use. To share that moment with your mates. To actually, some of the nearest and dearest mate you've been fishing with since I moved down here about 10 or 12 years ago now, just makes it even better, Joe. It's brilliant. And like I said, very, very lucky, very privileged to be here. I'm lucky, and I'll say it for the 3rd time. I'm doing what I do. I can come down and keep have a bit of bait trickling in the evenings, which people can't. I'm lucky in the fact that I'm local. If it wasn't for lockdown, I wouldn't have been able to do all of those things. The lake would have been a lot busier. I wouldn't have been able to get in here all the time. So I've had a lot of good fortune this year. There's no getting away from that. Yes, I've put a lot of work in, but at the same time, I have had a lot of good fortune. But it's paid off, and let's hope there might be one more before we go home tomorrow.
Excellent, awesome story, mate. Okay, well, tell you what, I don't know about you, but quite fancy a brew, and then maybe we'll have a little look at your bait and rigs.
Always pop the kettle on, mate, absolutely.
Sweet. Right, we've got one of your rigs here.
Yep.
That's the rig that you've been using most of the winter, I believe?
All winter. It's on all 3 rods. Take it everywhere, used them for years. It's just kind of, these days kind of fairly common, but been using them like this now for probably about 3 years, I think. Something like that. So whether people call it a hinge stiff rig, hinge soft rig, whatever they want to call it, it is pretty much always made of the same stuff. It's something I've kind of evolved, and I've been using these now for probably over a decade on most of the waters that I fish. It's just... that's N-Trap semi-stiff in 30 pounds, so the heaviest one they do, which is if you've got something almost just probably a little bit overbalanced, depending on where you put your first bit of putty, it will almost fall straight, which most things, to be honest, never do unless they're incredibly stiff. They normally just kind of fall in a bit of a loop like that. But it'll push out as far as it can while still being supple enough to sit over an obstacle if you need to. And then that's just all bright knotted to a bit of 25 pound mouth trap. Again, I've always liked the heavier one. Just the rigidity of it is absolutely brilliant. This old kind of whipping knot goes on there as well. I haven't liked the knotless knots for years. I had one let me down years ago, never used them since. And then just your little hook ring swivel that just pierces and goes through the cork ball. Now you can see what it turns like there. It's even with no loops or anything else, there's a hell of a lot of movement in that, and it's always grabbing the bottom lip.
That's it, you've got a nice progressive curve there to
exactly, that's pretty much almost good to go in terms of what I put out. I normally put a little bit more of a curve in them, as when you're bombing them out a long way and you're hitting a clip with a 3.5, 4 ounce lead on, especially when you've got hookbait foam on there, it does straighten them a little bit. So I normally over curve it a little bit before we pop them out there. But that's pretty much, at the moment, if I was just to tweak that a little bit sideways, that's pretty much what I think it'll be like. Actually, when it ends up on the bottom, and a ridiculously sharp J Precision Chod B.
Awesome.
In a 4, yeah, and that is literally on all 3 rods. It's probably go-to rig for probably about 90% of my fishing with what I do. A lot of it is probably bigger pits than this, more lightly stocked than this, but it is boilies. That's pretty much what I do, to be honest, and it's perfect for it.
Well, yeah, it's lovely to have that much confidence in the tactic to be putting it out on all 3, isn't it? Total faith.
Absolutely, Joe. It is total faith in it. And you even know, as I don't believe any rigs ever. Some of them are probably your super stiff hooklings and stuff, but occasionally you can get a little tangle with those. But you normally know by the way it bombs in. To be honest, if you don't hit the clip just right, sometimes when the lead bombs in, it can tangle. But 98% of the time, they're sat out there absolutely good as gold. So yeah, total confidence in it. Like I said, used them for years. The materials have tweaked and evolved slightly probably over the last decade, but yeah, I literally would take it anyway.
Right, nice one, Al. Thanks for that, mate.
No
Obviously,
problem, Joe.
Me and Mike are super excited about going and getting the rods out on the South Lake.
Yep.
What can you tell us about it?
A lot of it's still unknown, Joe. I'll say it's around about probably 80 to 90 acres, I would say, in size, something like that. There's only probably about a third of it has really been fished in the past couple of years. We know there's a lot of fish in there. There's a lot of stockies in there. There's a huge number of them compared to what we've got in the north. So when you do actually get on fish at times, they can get through a lot of bait, and you can have some really, really, really big hits.
Noted.
Exactly.
Lots of bait.
It's lots of bait. Then you will not be able to put enough out there to keep them there if a big group of them move through. If a big group of them come in, you should get a double figure hit quite easily just out of that group of fish that come through if you're quick.
All right, don't put the pressure on us.
Oh yeah, no problem, no pressure.
We've certainly whetted our appetite.
Good.
Obviously, if you catch anything, give us a shout.
Will do.
One of us will shoot over.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I think we're going to go and get the sticks out.
Good luck.
Top man.
Right.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers, boys.
Let's have them.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's been an absolutely glorious afternoon. So much so that I think me and Mike forgot that we had a job to do whilst we were here. Yeah, we cracked on with setting up, wanted to get ourselves properly sorted for the night. As far as spots are concerned, I had a little look on Google Earth before coming here, as I always do, and there was one area between these two swims that sort of looked a bit lighter, so I guess that must have been a shallower area. So I thought, right, that's going to be the first area I investigate. And lo and behold, rocked up in the swim, there's an H block out there. And it turns out a couple of bailiffs have been fishing these swims recently, and they've got H blocks in either swims, mine and Mike's swim. So they've been applying bait there regularly. Obviously, we only really had the choice of the island. There's a couple of other swims, there's 3 other swims on the island that we could have gone for. However, we would have been going in there totally blind. So it made sense to drop in these swims because them guys have been catching fish out of here. I found a nice little spot out to the left as well, just a little while ago. I was going to fish all 3 on that right-hand area, tight, but I think I'm going to put one on this spot that I just found. Yeah, it's like a 9-foot hump with gravel on the top and 14 foot either side of it with a bit of sort of decaying weed. So a nice prominent area. I'm just literally going to put a single hook bait on top of that. I've caught a lot of big carp on single hook baits over the years, and it's just one of them tactics that it's kind of almost takes a bit of balls to do, You always want to put a bit of bait out because you think that's going to grab their attention, but a single bright hook bait, stands out so much on the lake bed, and if they're swimming by, that catches their attention. All their focus and energy is on that, so they home in on that. They obviously taste it with their mouth, find out what it is with their mouth, and they hook themselves. So they've got nothing to compare it to, nothing to think, oh, that's a trap. And yeah, it certainly caught me a lot of odd, rare carp over the years. So I thought, well, seeing as there's a few rare ones in here that haven't been caught, it's worth sticking one out with that kind of style. The other 2, or the other area, should I say, I've actually put half a bucket of mix out there, and that's a mix of hemp, chopped nuts, lots of sweet corn, and a bit of smart liquid, and probably 2.5 key of cell. Which have been soaking for the last couple of days, so they're nice and mushy, loads of attraction in there. It should be giving off a nice strong food signal out into the lake. There's quite a few fish in here that have been stocked in, and you can imagine they swim around in packs, so something like that hopefully is going to grab their attention as they swim past. They're not going to be able to ignore it. They're going to get down, have a good route around. Hopefully there's going to be a party going on out there, and with any luck we might be in with a chance of catching 1 or 2 these very special carp. But it's just nice being here as well, to be honest with you. Nice being out again, nice to be able to be out fishing at nights again, and obviously this is a very iconic water that, even though it's different to how it was in the old days, it's still got a really cool, magical kind of vibe about it. And yeah, hopefully we're going to get to meet 1 or 2 of its residents. But for now, I think we'll go and catch up with Mike, see what his plan of attack is, and then it's burger o'clock.
Right, so as Joe mentioned earlier, we are proper behind on our filming. I'm proper behind on even getting set up. I've got nothing ready behind me. Only just about got the rods wrapped up and found spots. It took me a little while, I'm not gonna lie. Same as Joe, there's markers out in front of me. I didn't go bang on them, but I was trying to feel around them and I couldn't really find any gravel spots, to be honest with you. There's sort of silty areas and low-lying weeds, so I was hunting for the gravel and I just couldn't find it. So I'm gonna stick a heli out there, and I'm fishing a Ronnie, but I've gone for a 12mm pop-up on a size 4 hook, And what that means is that I haven't got to use any putty, nothing to weight it down. The weight of the hook itself is actually going to critically balance that pop-up down. So when it does land, it's just going to flutter down softly and hopefully sit on top of whatever's out there. Fishing a similar mix out there as Joe, chopped tigers, hemp. I've got 12mm boilies out there, but instead of corn, I've got pellet. I don't know if there's bream in here, but we'll soon find out if that's in the mix. So yeah, gonna get these out and hopefully something will come along and pick it up. Oh, that went down with a donk. Found a little bit of gravel over there, but only a tiny amount. But to be honest with you, I weren't looking to land directly on it, but I'm not going to turn that down. It's bang on the zone where I've been putting the bait out. And I'm pretty confident that it's going to be nice and presented. So we'll leave that one where it is.
Oh, look at that. Lovely dark sheen on it. Immaculate mouth, just how we like them. Awesome. Just under £19 this one. Lovely condition, and I'm super happy with that. He's got a really cool head on him as well, actually. Just that little scar down the back end there makes him recognisable. Yeah, glorious, glorious morning. I had to put my hat on because I gave myself another COVID haircut, didn't I, the other day, and yeah, it's pretty bad. So carpy hat it is. Right, we've also got a mirror in the other net, so let's get him out and have a little look at him. Mega morning. Well, this one is exactly the same size as the last one, about an ounce under £19, and it's certainly a character. He's got a mad little dorsal, which he did stick up to start with, but then when we laughed, it was almost like he put it down because he was a bit ashamed of it, to be honest. But yeah, come on, mate, stick your dorsal up, it's nice, it's cool. But yeah, he's got like a leathery back. It's quite a good bit of length for him for his size as well. And nice swirly lines. Yeah, he's a cool carp, and one that's definitely going to grow into one of the characters of the lake, I'm sure. Well, I didn't end up moving that rod off the bait in the end last night. I just kept all three over that area, and the left hand one's slightly shallower. I'm getting about a 9-foot drop there, and the two to the right of it slightly deeper. And I think I haven't had a bite on the right hand rod yet, so I'm going to move that one to the left hand side, leapfrog it, and hopefully that might produce the goods. But yeah, they're obviously got on the bait this morning, so we're going to give that a little top up at some point later on in the morning, because I reckon there's still a chance to bite it at the moment. It's a glorious day and it's only going to get nicer. I think we might even have to dig the shorts out. Excellent, love this time of year.
30, what do you reckon, mate? £30.14, having a wobble. Yeah, £30.14, lovely. That's 5.30s in the past 12 hours. It's ridiculous fishing, absolutely ridiculous. So, beautiful £30.14 ounce linear to start the day today. Bit of a crazy night's fishing. This is one of 5.30s I've had since I think 8:30 last night. A bit of a mad feeding spell between the evening going into the early hours. We're at 30, 32, 235s, and this beautiful fish this morning. So it's been a crazy couple of days. Unfortunately, most of the bites come in at night. We tried to get fish on camera yesterday. I got the bite, but unfortunately didn't land the fish, as I'm sure you've seen. So got this lovely chap as a consolation today, and what a prize. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I just want to close off, guys, by saying a big thank you and shout out, sorry, to the syndicate members on here. I got permission to come down a day early before we opened to see if we could get a fish on camera early doors. Like I said, we got the bite, we failed with the fish. So there was a draw for swims at 10 o'clock yesterday morning. 6 of the lads have turned up. I came out last and none of the guys chose this swim. So guys, Matty, Glyn, Martin, John, Carl, Jake, thank you very much, guys, as you've allowed me to spend another night in here and you've allowed us to wrap up with this. So thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Gentlemen, every one of you. And see you for a tea on the bank soon.
Well, in typical fashion, Mike left to swim and I got a bite as he went round to see Al and see that stunning linear. I've had a nice linear of my own. Absolute peach of a carp. I mean, this place, you can imagine the potential is just unreal. There's loads and loads of carp in here. I think they stocked, something, I might be wrong, but a few thousand years ago. And he said 300 C6s at that time as well. So there's going to be a lot of 30-pounders in here, as well as a few special rare old ones as well from the stories that we've heard. So yeah, unreal potential. And this little island is a right treat to have. It's going to be available for hire. So yeah, they're just doing it up at the moment, putting a bridge in here. Yeah, I can imagine lots of people wanting to get on here and have a little session. Perfect place to have a social. It's 5 swims, barbecue in the middle and that. So yeah, what a treat. Treat yourself to a weekend at Wraysbury South Lake on an island. Well, I come for a little mooch about. It seemed pretty dead up there, to be honest with you. These sort of days in the spring, very hot, very calm. Fish don't get up too much. They just want to do what we want to do, is lay in the sunshine and enjoy it, lap it up. Which I was tempted to do. I was going to drag my bed chair out in the sun and take my top off and yeah, get some vitamin D. But I thought, no, let's go on a little adventure. So I've come up to what they call the Finger Bays, which I came here many, many years ago actually. I think I was like late teens, and at the time Mary's mate was in here, and I just came for a little walk round. Went for a walk around the island lake and this one with a friend. And I remember jokingly had a picture, you know, watch this space. And it was like pretending I was holding Mary's mate, which was like a super long, epic, cool carp. So yeah, it's quite nice to be back here after all these years. It's changed a bit. There's a track around here now, which before you couldn't do it without, well, blood, sweat and tears really. It was savage. Anyway, like I said, it's a lovely warm day, and I thought, you know what, there must be some fish on the top somewhere. So I've come around here, and in this corner, I see a bit of a disturbance from the other bank, so I walk round, and underneath this bush, lovely linear, probably around the £20 mark. All on his own, actually, all on his Jack Jones, surprisingly. Normally you see one, there's others, but Billy no mates. So yeah, I'm going to continue on round the rest of this bit and see if there's anything else mooching about, but this place is really cool. Every little bit of margin you look in, there's really super tasty looking gravel spots or just polished off areas that, yeah, screaming for a rig. Bit of jungle warfare, which probably not even allowed around here. But yeah, loving the old Wraysbury vibes. Let's continue on and see if we can find one of those mythical beasts. On my mooching about, I came across this lovely, inviting looking bit of grass. And after being up since 4 o'clock this morning, having a very eventful day so far, I can see myself grabbing 5 minutes here. Why not, eh? Oh, lap it up. Just found this down there. Obviously these lakes are very well looked after, but there's always the odd little bit. And we should always do our bit and pick it up, rather than just complaining about other people's rubbish. Just get on with it and pick it up, accept responsibility as a human being. And yeah, you never know, that might buy me a bit of luck tonight. Might get one of them old red mire commons. But to be honest with you, I'd much rather it if Mike caught it, because he's been working really hard lately on all these edits. And yeah, he deserves something special. So fingers crossed he's going to get his reward tonight. But for now, a little bit of water, 5 minutes. Shall I? Suit you, sir. Oh. Oh, that is the nuts. Oh, I should probably set an alarm. Probably wake up at sunset.
Me, Mike.
Well, it's quite a quiet night last night. I actually thought it was going to go off after that first night. Topped up the spots and nothing happened. So yeah, we're sitting there watching the sun come up this morning, and there's been the odd one showing. We've both been expecting a bite, to be honest with you, the way they've been so active. But yeah, finally this one's gone and we've got a nice little mirror. I've switched over to running leads. I'll show you that in a minute after this, once we've got this in, but basically there's no need to drop the lead at the moment. There's not loads of weed in here. And I got done the night before. Obviously if they're fishing a running lead, they can't use the weight of the lead. Go on, get in there. Lovely. Whee. Yeah, they can't use the weight of the lead to shake the hook out. So yeah, something I've been doing a little bit more recently, and also there's no need to drop the lead all the time. So yeah, wicked. We've got one in the net. It's a lovely one as well. Cracking fish. Right, I just thought I'd show you this lead clip system quickly. I've recently changed over to these ones, which have a peg system in them. So literally, if you put a little peg in there, that stops the swivel being able to slide out of it, and the lead is able to eject really easily. However, there's a lot of situations where you don't really need to be losing the lead. Obviously they're extremely expensive, and there's no point just dumping the lead into the lake for the sake of it. So in occasions like this, where there's not a lot of weed about or not a lot of snags to worry about, I find it's better to use a running lead. Like I say, A, you're going to save yourself some money, but, and this is a big but, the fish aren't able to use the lead to shake the hook out of their mouths. That first night I had a trrrr. I thought, well, that's got a bit of bite, picked up the rod, no lead on there. So the fish obviously picked it up, shaking it hard, and the lead's fallen off and the hook's come out. Obviously with this system, fish gets hooked, they shake the lead, and the lead slides down. So not only are they not able to use it to shake the hook out, also you get fantastic indication, 10 times better than you would normally. If you fish that with a bit of a drop and a light bobbing, you're going to know about it instantly. And that, for that reason, I much prefer using running leads. However, a lot of the time I do need to drop the lead. So yeah, that's why I like to be able to change it. So I can use either my normal zigs, my solid bag setup, or the spinner setup on exactly the same lead clip, just by taking the peg in and out. Well, literally just got that rod back out. I was leaving the line to sink and it's absolutely ripped off, but something's not right. Don't know whether it's round a snag or something, but I don't like it. Yeah, this don't feel good. Horrible. I wonder what that is then. Like I said, you know, on Wraysbury, there's all kinds of things in the water here from over the years. I just don't know, but I think we've got him moving now, so that's good. Weird this is. Oh, kicking. That's it, it's out now. Well, whatever he was on, he was off, and he's moving freely now. You have to excuse my Dumb and Dumber haircut. We'll get that fixed in the next week or so, or the 12th. God, it's quite powerful actually. What's going on here? It's a really weird fight this is. Oh, it's stuck on something else now. What is going on? I wonder what's out here. It was free and then it's in a different position and it's stuck again. Really stuck this time, no movement. Really have no idea what this could be stuck on. Well, I'll come up the bank here just to get a little bit more height on it, and it is moving now. Don't know what's attached to it, but if this is just a carp, then I think we might have Mary and Mary's mate on here. Is there going to be a fish there? Or have we just got a dredger bucket or something? Not felt any kicks for a while now. Well, there's a big ball of weed. The question is there a fish in it? Don't think there is a fish. Sure, there's got to be. Yay, there is a carp in there. He was just bundled up in all that weed. It's crazy to think that there's still all this weed in here, because if you look at it closely, you can see it's last year's weed, but it's shooting off new roots, so it hasn't died off properly, and it's going to come back in force. Right, let's see what's in the bottom of this net.
Well, it's finally happened. Woke up this morning and saw fish boshing in the same area as yesterday. There's a few markers out there left by the bailiffs that have been fishing the island. And to be honest with you, they've been getting in the way, because I've been holding back trying to go past them just to be sure that I don't pick it up if I did get a fish. So I've been concentrating all my efforts just before the markers. And to be honest with you, I found a nice spot, filled it in with bait, Same as what I'd done on the first night. And the same as that first morning, fish were showing past it. But I thought I'd stick with it, leave the rigs on the baited spot, and hopefully they'll move on to it, but it never happened. And then, yeah, saw them showing in the same areas again this morning. And I thought, you know what, he who dares wins. I reeled the rod in, cast past it, and then left it on a tight clutch. So if it did go, I've got more chance getting back on it and getting it away from that H-block before I had a chance to cause any trouble. And Joe come and paid me a visit. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to stick it out a bit further, mate. He goes, what, you taking it off that baited spot? I said, well, let's roll the dice, have a little bit of a gamble and see what happens. So yeah, got it in, slung it out there, and got a relatively good drop, to be honest with you. So I was more than happy with where it was. And then yeah, I'd say 20 minutes later, 25 minutes later, it's rattled off. It's gone a bit solid. Let's try and get a different angle on him. I think he's just in weed. Yeah, it's coming again now. So yeah, I was sort of torn between whether I made the right decision or not. But the fish were showing where they're showing, and I couldn't sit on it any longer. Like, I can't wait for them to hopefully move on to my bait. I thought, let's take the chance. And to be honest with you, I wish I'd just done it on the first morning rather than just sitting on my hands. I could have had a few more fish on the bank, but nevertheless, one's better than none. Hopefully I can get it in. Come on, mate, you're cooked. Bosh. That'll do, mate, finally.
Look at that for a truly mega little creature. Big scales there on the shoulder, lovely linear line, mint condition mouth. Absolutely gorgeous Wraysbury linear. Well, that's the smaller one of the two. Should we have a look at the bigger one? And then we've got to pack up and get out of here because someone else is coming on the island. And there we go, there's the other one. Definitely a bit bigger, this one. Probably just about 20 pound. Lovely line of scales along the middle of it there. Okay, really nice blue sheen in here with that clear water and the weed. Awesome, really thoroughly enjoyable trip. But the best news is Mike's bagged himself a nice common too. So let's go and check that out, and then we'll get wrapped up and let these other guys on the island for their turn. Mega.
Well, I finally bagged myself a fish after watching Joe basically haul it off for the past 2 nights. It's about time I got amongst them. And what a fish to get. Absolutely mint common. Nice colour to it. It's got a bit of weight, we haven't weighed it yet. I'll give it a weigh just before we slip it back, but yeah, mega long fish, look at it. Epic. And just making that little gamble of flicking out a single to where they were showing paid off. Still didn't manage a bite off the baited areas, so yeah, it was definitely the right decision. Right, let's weigh you and slip you back. Epic. Well, this one was 27.5 pound. Absolutely made up, quite deceiving actually. It felt a big fish, but I didn't think it would be as big as that, so over the moon. Let's slip it back.
Top 3 captures of all time. They're not really specific to an individual carp, more about the sort of situation around them. Number 1 would probably be my first ever session up on a church lake. I was with my best pal Reedy. Kev had refrained from letting us have a go for a couple of years, finally let us up there, and in the space of like 12 hours I'd had a 48 common, a 44 leather, a 38 mirror and a string of other fish. And yeah, it blew my mind really. It made me realise that there's certain waters out there that are just not real, you know, and that's one hell of a special place where dreams can come true. Another one would definitely be when I went over to La Gomera, that kind of mythical Jurassic Park type island. I fished a lake that had pretty much never been fished before for, you know, uncaught carp. It was difficult, really tricky to be fair. Lost a few fish, got cut off a number of times, but eventually caught that ridiculous prehistoric beast. Almost definitely had never been caught before. Truly took my breath away, not just the carp, but the whole surroundings and the adventure full stop. And then lastly, would probably be when I went out to New Zealand to see my mother with my kids and Chloe. Managed to catch a carp in her presence shortly after she sadly passed away. So it's the only photo I've actually got of me and her together with the kids with a carp. Poached it from a lake you weren't allowed to fish. There were signs everywhere saying no carp fishing, but I just had to do it. Caught it on a bread bomb. And I'll never forget a typical, you shouldn't be doing this, Alan, you shouldn't be doing this, Alan, but I got a mega photo together, you know, real special memories.
Red letter sessions, well, not really a session angler. My sessions tend to be quite short. I don't have massive hits of fish all the time. But one particular period in my angling where everything went right was when I first caught the carving out of the church lake. I'd seen that fish and fed it, you know, several times. I'd caught its mate the night before. I kind of knew that I was going to catch it. I even told 2 people the day that I caught it I was going to have the wood carving. And it was a period of angling where things were going really well for me. I'd got a little something going in a quiet corner and I was keeping it quiet. You know, I was turning up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I could have fished earlier, but I didn't want people to see me, so I was rocking up really late when everybody else was asleep. I was lowering my rigs in without a torch. I had my receiver on silent. I had all my LEDs taped up, and I was landing them if it was still dark without the aid of a torch. You know, I wanted to keep it quiet. Doing self-takes, and I was off by 7:30 in the morning. And I ended up with 10 fish in 10 nights, including some of the ones I really wanted to catch. Some of the old ones, the Thought Park Leany, the Carvin, Sid, Groucho. Yeah, some of the really, you know, the really nice fish. I've always found, I think, that you seem to catch the older and scalier ones in the edge anyway. I don't know why that is. Maybe not the big ones, but certainly the ones that I like to catch. So yeah, that was a really good period in my angling, and I managed 10 fish in 10 nights before eventually the cat got out of the bag, and that was that. You know how it is. These things don't last forever, do they? But I made the most of it while I could.
Well, if I was to have a school report for this session, I think it would go something along the lines of Joe needs to remember the lessons he's learnt in the past many times. I've been beating myself up a little bit this week because jumping on long reach and in that swim that I'd caught fish from in the past, putting a load of bait out and sitting there hoping they turn up or thinking they're going to, well, I've realised now, well, I've realised it many times that I'm no good at guessing carp games. So instead, I just have to use my eyes and act accordingly. So, moved over to the meadow. The first night, didn't have anything. And I was going to go home, to be honest with you. I only came here for 4 nights originally this week. And turned into 5 because I fancied a night on the meadow because there'd been some fish showing. And then out here yesterday morning, I saw a few, nothing that close, but I just felt like, right, I'm in this deep now. Let's have another night, one last night. And then this morning I sat there and thought, well, you've done all you can, and sometimes you just got to admit to a blank, admit defeat. And I was going around to mates tonight, and I thought, well, I'm going to end up getting messy and probably staying up all night like we normally do, mixing music. I thought I'll just get myself a little hour's power nap. I was going to leave at 11 because that's normally when bites stop. So I got my head down at 9:30. And earlier on in the week, Eric said to me, the bailiff here, I said, you see much in the morning? He said, no, I've not been looking. He said, you don't catch when you're not asleep. You only catch when you're asleep. We had a bit of a joke about it. So when I had my power nap, I thought, right, I'm fed up of looking. I'm going to try Eric's technique. Fell asleep, lo and behold, hour later, rod's away. Madness. Mental scrap. It just tore off about 40 yards of line instantly, like, just had to keep giving it, you know, always play him on the back one. Kited round, and then from that point I just kind of led it in fairly easily, and it rolled, and I thought, oh, like, is that the brown? Soon realised it wasn't the brown, but I have got a nice 30 pounder, probably a mid 30 or so in the sling. So I'm going to pack my gear away, get the bits and pieces I need for that. I need a bit of space, that's why I'm going to pack my gear away, but I'm leaving anyway. So I'm going to chuck the bits in the car, leave the rods out for the last minute. We'll show you this lovely carp, and then yeah, I'm going to hit the road, get back to Colchester. But yeah, blank buster, absolutely buzzing. I was shaking like a leaf when that was coming in. It's just like tore off and felt so heavy, and yeah, what a buzz. Over the moon. Yes, yes, yes. Tell you what, I would have been going home with my tail between my legs, was it not for this fella. Lovely condition. But instead, he's going home with a skip in his step. I reckon that's somewhere around the mid-30 mark. Let's have a little looky-looky. Six. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so just 36.1, but we'll call it 36. Awesome. Right. Let's have a little look. Not really had a proper look at it yet. Oh yes, yes, you're a cool carp. Lovely, slippery old sheen to it. Right, let's show you off, mate. In fact, that's your better side, isn't it? This side, on my weaker arm. Bit of a slope here, not ideal. Look at that. That feels every bit of 36 pounds. Top of the evening to you. Oh, spilling my tea on me. Well, left here on Saturday, went to my friends, had a lovely evening. Only 6 of us, of course. Mixing records all night. Well, actually, WAVs for me, records for my friends, because they're vinyl purists. But yeah, really nice time. Yesterday, I was out filming with Alan Blair. Nice to catch up with him. Absolutely lovely fella. Can't help but you know, admire his passion and enthusiasm for fishing and life itself, and even working. That man loves to work. He works all the hours of the day, and you know, he gets a real buzz from it, so fair play to him. Anyway, I was itching to get back down here. Got here this afternoon, had a little wander around Longreach first, then had a little look on the meadow, and the swim I fished last week for 3 nights and I blanked in where I put out a fair bit of bait is where I've ended up tonight. Main reason being, no one's fished here since then. There was fish seen out there at the weekend. It's all primed up, ready to go. And then the guys down the end have not seen anything down there either. So I'm pretty convinced there's fish up in this area. In fact, there's this little bream, I don't know how big he is actually, might be a big bream. There's a bream that floats around on the surface, must have something wrong with its swim bladder. And its dorsal pokes out of the water. At first I thought it was a small carp in it, that it was its tail, not its dorsal, but anyway, it turns out it's a bream. And it seems to be, wherever he is, there are a few carp, and I've seen him around the pond quite a bit the last couple of months or so. And that was out here, just sort of 40 yards out. There's been a bit of bubbling out there. Most of the time there's been ripple over the actual area I'm fishing. So I don't know if there's been much bubbling going on out there, but there's been a little bit shorter, so it suggests there's probably bream in the area. Normally, where the bream are, the carp are. Although I haven't seen anything yet, I'm pretty confident that there's going to be fish about, and yeah, fairly confident of a bite. Probably not till the morning though, but we'll see. I should never give it all that, because whenever I do, I don't catch anything. So, you know, I'm not going to catch anything tonight. Come on a friendly common. Top of the morning to you. Well, it was a lovely, mild night. Probably about 15 degrees, something like that. Woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning to an absolute torrential downpour. And I've been up ever since. There's been a few bubblers, most of them not actually in my zone. A bit shorter, probably 30 yards shorter. I've been sitting on my hands trying not to recast because I just don't want to disturb anything that's out there. But I've seen a couple of little bubblers on my area, and I'm sure it was, you know, it's just a matter of time really before one of them creeps onto it. I haven't put a lot of bait out. I don't reckon there's much left from last week. I just put literally, oh, there's a little fizzer on the actual spot. Yeah, that's bang on the money, that one. Just put out 6 little spoms of mix. So just 2 on each rod, fishing each rod about 4 or 5 foot apart in exactly the same zone. All my eggs in one basket, but like I say, I am considering dropping a single on some of these fizzers, because they are, even though they're only sort of 30 yards away from the spot, there's a shallow bar and a deep trough in between, so yeah. Apart from that, it's very, very carpy. Lovely, mild morning. Quite a bit of fizzing going on. I think it should only be a matter of time. Come on, the friendly. Where are you? 4 years. 4 years, that's insane. Come on.
Look at them dogs kicking off over there, Madalena, eh? What's all that about? We want to be chilled, don't we? We've got to talk about carping calamities. These people don't know that they need to make a cup of tea, get in a comfy chair, because we could be here for hours. I could probably do a set of books about carping calamities. I've had so many, it's untrue. What one would you pick if you had to pick one? It was one night I was on a lake, and I wanted to go and bait up on a bar, and you weren't allowed to use boats, and I needed a boat to do it with. So previously I'd stashed a boat on this lake, a little inflatable, and I'd stashed it in the bushes, and it had been rolled up and it had gone flat, and it was just there. And I thought, oh, I've got that boat stashed down the other end. So I went down to the other end and I pumped up this boat and I took it out, and it was really hot night, and I just had a set of shorts on, no shirt or anything, and I paddled out there under the cover of darkness with my bait to this bar. Now the boat wasn't very good, it was full of holes and it was getting lower and lower and lower as I went, but it wasn't far, I don't know, let's say 60 yards or whatever. So I got out there and I scattered my bait about, and by now the boat's getting very flat and the back's coming up and the front's coming up as it's losing air, and water's starting to ship in. So I've sort of better make it back to the bank, and I've turned around, I've started paddling back towards the bank, again trying to be really quiet and what have you, not get spotted. And then suddenly I got something got me on my chest, and then ow, something else, like little burny things and like needles, hot needles going in me, and I thought, I know what that is. Got me again, then on my leg. So I covered my head torch and clicked it on and looked, and I was covered in red ants. Where the boat had been rolled up in the bushes, the ants must have made a nest in the creases. When the water was coming in, they started panicking and using me to climb out of the boat, getting angry with me and stinging the bejesus out of me. By now the boat's like a kebab, you know, like a pancake. The only bit with any air in is actually the inflatable floor. And it just got to a stage where I was just getting stung and I was sinking rapidly. I had to just roll off of what was left of this semi-inflated kebab into the water, get hold of the rope and side stroke back to the bank, and I was absolutely covered in these red welts all over me. But yeah, that's just one. I've had hundreds.
A little personal touch or an adaptation of something I've been doing for the last couple of years to the Ronnie rig. I was getting a bit worried if the beads were too loose on the cast. I was always worried that the bead on the hook or the shankered hook would slip round, especially like after a couple of casts it gets wet and it, you know, you may have done it yourself, reeled in and the beads moved. In my head I can't have a rod out there if that's happening because it's just not going to be fishing right. And on the other hand, if the bead's too tight, I was always worried and concerned that the bead would stop the penetration of the hook going in, which I'm sure it probably can do to some degree. And that is one reason why I moved on to the crank, so you got more of a gape. But still, I still want that bead to move. Anyway, what we've done, we threaded a bit of braid or hair braid through the eye of the hook and kind of made like a slip D. So you've got like the swivel moving up and down on the shank of the hook, but can only go as far as the loop from the slip D. And then we just sort of half hitched it on the eye of the hook and glued it and cut it, and then carried on making the Ronnie rig up. And to be honest, it 100% improved the hooking abilities. And on top of that, my confidence was always great, knowing that it's out there sitting properly, that bead hasn't moved, and I've got no worry about it not preventing the hook from going in. So that's something that I've adapted and played around with the last couple of years, me and the mate Jim.